On August 31st, 1997, the world stopped breathing. In London, a woman woke up to the news and collapsed in her kitchen. In New York, a taxi driver pulled over and wept. In Tokyo, strangers held each other in the street. News anchors, trained to remain composed, broke down on camera. Flowers began appearing outside palace gates. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. Mountains of roses, lilies, and handwritten notes from people who had never met her, but felt like they'd lost someone they loved. Princess Diana was gone. But this isn't just a story about how she died. It's about how she lived. How a shy, insecure young woman became the most famous person on earth. How a fairy tale wedding became a beautiful prison. How she fought against an ancient institution with nothing but her honesty and her heart. This is the story of a girl named Diana Spencer. The girl who dreamed of being a dancer, who loved children more than anything, who married a prince and discovered that crowns can be heavy enough to crush you. But it's also the story of how she found her voice, how she turned her pain into purpose, and how, even now, more than 25 years after her death, she still matters. Because Diana didn't just change the royal family, she changed what it means to be human in public. Diana Frances Spencer was born on July 1st, 1961, in the middle of summer at Park House on the Queen's Sandringham estate. She should have been happy. The Spencers were one of England's oldest aristocratic families. They had titles, land, history. But titles don't keep you warm at night, and history doesn't fix a broken home. When Diana was 6 years old, her mother left. Not quietly, not without pain. The divorce was brutal, public, fought over in court. Diana's father was given custody. Her mother moved away. Diana once said she remembered the sound of gravel crunching under her mother's car as she drove away. She remembered standing at a window, watching, wondering if it was something she'd done. That wound never fully healed. At Althorpe, the family estate, Diana tried to disappear. She wasn't academic like her sisters. She wasn't confident. She was quiet, sensitive, always worried about saying the wrong thing. Her brother called her Duchess because she acted like she was born to be something special. But Diana didn't feel special. She felt broken. She found comfort in small things, caring for animals, playing with her younger brother, dancing in her room to music no one else could hear. After school, she moved to London, got a flat with friends, worked as a nanny, taught at a kindergarten. She was good with children. They didn't judge her. They just wanted her to be kind. And she was. There was nothing in those years that suggested destiny was watching. Nothing except one small detail. Her family had known the royal family for generations, and sometimes at parties, at country weekends, she'd see him. Prince Charles. He was 12 years older, serious, distant, a man trained from birth to hide his feelings. Diana thought he was handsome, but she never imagined he'd notice her. And then, in the summer of 1980, everything changed. Prince Charles was 32 years old, and the pressure was unbearable. He was the heir to the British throne, and he didn't have a wife. The press hounded him, his parents pushed him. The public watched every woman he dated, wondering, is this the one? Charles had loved someone once, Camilla Shand, but she wasn't considered suitable. She'd had relationships before. The palace didn't approve. She married someone else. Charles never really got over her. But in the summer of 1980, at a mutual friend's house, he saw Diana again. She was 19, fresh-faced, sweet. She listened when he talked. She didn't try to impress him. She just cared. Charles was grieving. His beloved uncle, Lord Mountbatten, had been killed in an IRA bombing the year before. Diana said something that touched him. She told him she'd watched his face at the funeral, and she could see how much pain he was in. No one had said that to him before. They began seeing each other, quietly at first. Then the press found out. Reporters camped outside her apartment, Photographers followed her to work. She was called Shy Di. The public adored her. She seemed perfect. Young, beautiful, aristocratic, and, most importantly, she had no past, no scandals, no complications. In February 1981, just 6 months after that summer conversation, Charles proposed. He gave her a sapphire ring surrounded by diamonds. Diana said yes immediately. At the engagement press conference, a reporter asked Charles, "Are you in love?" Charles hesitated. Then he said, "Whatever in love means." Diana laughed. She was supposed to laugh. But if you watch that footage closely, really closely, you can see her smile falter, just for a second. It's one of the saddest moments in television history, and no one realized it at the time. Paul's Cathedral. 3,500 guests inside. 600,000 people lining the streets of London. 750 million people watching on television around the world. Diana's dress was a masterpiece. Ivory silk, hand-embroidered, with a 25-foot train that seemed to float behind her like a cloud. She was 20 years old. When she stepped out of the glass coach, the crowd erupted. She looked like every little girl's fantasy, a princess, a real one. But as she walked down that endless aisle, her hands were shaking. Later, she would say she felt like a lamb going to slaughter. The ceremony was flawless. Charles and Diana exchanged vows. She stumbled over his names, called him Philip Charles instead of Charles Philip, but people thought it was endearing. When they kissed on the balcony of Buckingham Palace, the world sighed. It looked perfect. But Diana had already discovered something that terrified her. 2 days before the wedding, she found a bracelet Charles had made for Camilla, a gift. Even now, even after everything. She asked her sisters if she should go through with it. They told her, "Your face is already on the tea towels. It's too late to back out." So she walked down the aisle and married a man who was still in love with someone else. At first, Diana tried. She tried to learn the rules. There were so many rules. How to sit, how to stand, what to wear, when to speak, when to stay silent. Royal protocol dictated everything. She couldn't cross her legs in public. She couldn't show too much emotion. She couldn't express political opinions. She couldn't even choose her own schedule. She was the most famous woman in the world, and she had no control over her own life. The palace staff called her a problem. She was too emotional, too modern. She cried easily. She wanted to hug people. She asked questions. Charles didn't understand her. He'd grown up in this world. He knew how to wear the mask. Diana didn't have a mask. She was all feeling, all heart, all the time. And Charles went back to Camilla. They spoke on the phone. They wrote letters. He saw her when he could, and Diana knew. She knew from the beginning. In 1982, Diana gave birth to Prince William. She adored him. For a while, being a mother gave her purpose. But the loneliness crept back in. She began struggling with bulimia. It started as a way to feel in control. If she couldn't control her life, she could control her body. She made herself sick after meals. She lost weight. People said she looked beautiful. She felt like she was disappearing. She battled depression. She told staff she felt like she was drowning. But no one knew what to do. The palace didn't believe in therapy. You didn't talk about mental health, you just carried on. In 1984, Prince Harry was born. Diana poured everything into her sons. She took them to McDonald's. She waited in line at Disney World. She wanted them to know what normal felt like. But inside the palace, Diana was falling apart. She once threw herself down a wooden staircase while pregnant because she was so desperate for Charles to pay attention to her. She wasn't trying to hurt the baby. She was trying to hurt herself, just enough to be seen. Charles walked past her and went riding. Years later, she said, "I just wanted him to notice me, to care." But he didn't. But then something shifted. Diana discovered that while she couldn't fix her marriage, she could fix other things. She started focusing on her charity work, really focusing. In 1987, she visited an AIDS ward at Middlesex Hospital. At the time, people believed you could catch HIV from touching someone. Patients were isolated, treated like lepers. Diana walked in without gloves. She shook hands. She sat on their beds. She held their hands and looked them in the eyes. One photograph of Diana holding the hand of an AIDS patient went around the world. It changed public perception overnight. She did the same thing with leprosy patients. She hugged homeless people. She visited drug rehabilitation centers and listened to addicts talk about their struggles. She wasn't just doing royal photo ops, she actually cared. In 1997, she walked through an active minefield in Angola to bring attention to landmines. She wore protective gear, but everyone knew. One wrong step and she could die. When asked why she did it, she said, "I wanted people to see what these weapons do to children." The world listened. But the more Diana succeeded in public, the more her marriage crumbled in private. Charles and Diana barely spoke. They lived separate lives. He went to Camilla. She had her own relationships, complicated, painful, never quite fulfilling. And the press? The press devoured it all, every fight, every rumor, every tear. Diana once said the paparazzi made her life unbearable, but she also knew how to use them. She understood that a photograph was power. If she wanted to send a message to Charles, to the palace, to the world, she knew exactly which photographer to tip off. It was a dangerous game, and she was getting tired of playing it. In 1992, a book called Diana, Her True Story was published. It revealed everything. Her eating disorder, her depression, Charles's affair with Camilla, her suicide attempts, the palace's indifference to her suffering. The palace denied Diana had cooperated with the author, but she had. She'd secretly recorded herself answering questions and had a friend pass the tapes along. She was done protecting the institution that had never protected her. The public was heartbroken, but they didn't blame Diana. They blamed Charles. They blamed the royal family. By 1995, the marriage was over in every way that mattered except legally. Then, Diana did something unprecedented. She agreed to a televised interview with BBC's Panorama. 23 million people in the UK watched it live. Diana sat across from journalist Martin Bashir, calm and composed, and told the truth. She talked about her bulimia. "It was a symptom of what was going on in my marriage. I was crying out for help." She talked about Charles and Camilla. "There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded." She talked about the future. "I'd like to be a queen of people's hearts, but I don't see myself being queen of this country." The interview was devastating, raw, honest. The palace was furious. The Queen demanded that Charles and Diana divorce immediately. In August 1996, the divorce was finalized. Diana lost her HRH title. She was no longer Her Royal Highness, just Diana, Princess of Wales. But in losing the title, she gained something else. Freedom. The summer of 1997 felt different. Diana seemed lighter, happier. She was dating Dodi Fayed, the son of Egyptian billionaire Mohammed Al Fayed. They spent time on his father's yacht in the Mediterranean. Photographers captured them looking relaxed, affectionate. The tabloids called it a romance. Some said Dodi was going to propose. Others thought it was just a summer fling. Diana's friends said she seemed at peace. She was planning her next charity project. She was spending time with William and Harry. She was finally building the life she wanted. On August 30th, 1997, Diana and Dodi were in Paris. They had dinner at the Ritz Hotel. Outside, paparazzi swarmed. They decided to leave through a back entrance to avoid the cameras. Henri Paul, the acting head of security, would drive. A backup car would follow. The plan was simple: speed away, lose the photographers, and head to Dodi's apartment. But Henri Paul had been drinking that night. His blood alcohol level was later found to be 3 times the legal limit. No one in the car knew. Just after midnight, the black Mercedes entered the Pont de l'Alma tunnel along the Seine River. Henri Paul was driving fast. Too fast. Paparazzi were chasing on motorcycles, trying to keep up. Inside the tunnel, the car clipped another vehicle. It swerved. Paul lost control. The Mercedes slammed into a concrete pillar at over 60 miles per hour. Dodi Fayed was killed instantly. Henri Paul was killed instantly. Diana's bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, survived but was critically injured. Diana was conscious at first. She was trapped in the wreckage, severely injured but alive. Emergency responders arrived. They worked frantically to free her. She was taken to Pitié-Salpêtrière Hospital. Doctors did everything they could, but her injuries were catastrophic: internal bleeding, heart damage. At 4 a.m. on August 31, 1997, Diana, Princess of Wales, was pronounced dead. She was 36 years old. When the news broke, the world didn't just mourn. It shattered. People who had never met her sobbed uncontrollably. Strangers embraced in the streets. Grown men wept openly. Within hours, people began gathering outside Kensington Palace, Diana's home. They brought flowers. At first, dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. The pile grew so massive it stretched for hundreds of feet. People left teddy bears, candles, photos, handwritten letters that said things like, "You were the only one who understood," and "Thank you for making us believe kindness matters." In the week following her death, more than 1 million people came to pay their respects. On September 6, 1997, Diana's funeral was held at Westminster Abbey. More than 2.5 billion people watched worldwide. It was one of the most watched events in television history. Elton John, Diana's friend, performed a rewritten version of "Candle in the Wind." His voice cracked as he sang. Diana's brother, Earl Spencer, delivered a eulogy that many saw as a rebuke to both the press and the royal family. He spoke of Diana's kindness, her insecurities, and the relentless media pursuit that had made her life unbearable. He ended with a promise: "We will not allow her sons to suffer the anguish that used to regularly drive you to tearful despair." And then came the image that broke the world. Prince William and Prince Harry, 15 and 12 years old, walking behind their mother's coffin, their heads bowed, their small hands clasped, their grief visible to billions. No child should have to mourn that way. But they did in the years since, people have asked. Was it really just an accident? Official investigations concluded that Henri Paul was drunk and driving recklessly. The paparazzi didn't directly cause the crash, but their pursuit created the chaos that led to it. Seatbelts weren't worn. Speed was excessive. It was a tragic accident. But conspiracy theories have persisted. Some believe the royal family ordered her death. Some think intelligence agencies were involved. Mohammed Al-Fayed, Dodi's father, spent years and millions of dollars trying to prove it was murder. No credible evidence has ever supported these claims. What we know is this: Diana died because a drunk driver made a terrible decision while being chased by people who valued a photograph more than a human life. More than 25 years have passed since Diana's death, but her presence remains. Prince William and Prince Harry have spoken openly about mental health, inspired by their mother's honesty. They've continued her work with homelessness, HIV/AIDS awareness, and landmine removal. The way William and Harry parent their own children, with warmth, affection, and a desire for normalcy, reflects the way Diana raised them. When Prince Harry and Meghan Markle stepped back from royal duties, many saw echoes of Diana's own struggle against the institution. Diana changed what it meant to be royal. She showed that compassion isn't weakness, that vulnerability is strength, that you can wear a crown and still kneel down to hug a child. She wasn't perfect. She made mistakes. She was complicated, emotional, sometimes manipulative. She struggled with her mental health. She hurt people, and she was hurt. But she never stopped trying to do good. She never stopped caring. And that's why, even now, when we see a photo of her holding a sick child or walking through a minefield or laughing with her sons, we feel something. We feel like we knew her. Because in a world of perfection and pretense, Diana was real. She was broken and beautiful and brave. She was human. And she made us believe that being human was enough. Rest in peace, Diana. The world still remembers. The world still loves you.